I still hear the sirens. Even after all these years, I still smell the burning streets. I still see the faces I couldn't save. Let me tell you what I saw in World War II, because once you know the truth, you'll never forget it. I was young when it began, too young to understand how a single decision, a single man, could throw the entire world into fire. But old enough to remember every scream, every explosion, every moment when hope felt like a fading candle in a storm. Let me take you back. Let me show you what my eyes saw. People always imagine war as explosions and bullets, but the truth is, it begins with silence. I remember that silence. The streets were uneasy. Radios whispered rumors. Germany had invaded Poland. At first, it sounded distant, like thunder far away, but thunder always moves closer. I still remember the day our commander read the message. War has begun. The world changed in that one sentence. A few weeks later, the bombs came. I was standing outside a bakery, yes, a bakery, just thinking about having a warm piece of bread, when suddenly the siren screamed. People panicked. Mothers pulled their children. Soldiers ran toward their posts, not away. And then the sky tore open. Planes, black silhouettes, rushed overhead. Their engines shook my bones. The first bomb fell just a block away. The explosion threw me off my feet. My ears rang so loudly that I thought I had gone deaf. Dust, smoke, debris, everything blurred. And then I saw something I will never forget. A small child standing alone in the middle of the street, crying for his mother who was buried under rubble. That was the first time war felt personal. I joined the resistance not because I was brave, but because fear has a strange way of turning into courage when you feel you have nothing left to lose. We had almost nothing: old rifles, stolen maps, and hope stitched together with desperation. Every night we moved like shadows, carrying messages, rescuing survivors, sabotaging enemy supply lines. Once we hid inside a broken farmhouse as German soldiers marched right outside. I could hear their boots. That sound still haunts me. One wrong breath and we would have been found. But sometimes survival is nothing more than knowing how to stay still. There was a night so dark that even the moon refused to shine. We were escorting refugees through a forest. Families, children, the wounded, all trying to escape before the German patrols arrived. Everything was quiet until we heard dogs barking in the distance. Then gunshots. We had seconds to react. We pushed the refugees deeper into the forest, telling them where to hide, where to run, and then we turned back toward the danger. 3 of us, 30 of them. We didn't stand a chance. Bullets cracked through the trees. The air smelled of burning gunpowder. I remember diving behind a fallen log, reloading, firing, praying, shaking. My hands weren't steady. How could they be? But sometimes fear sharpens your aim more than training ever could. By dawn we were bleeding, exhausted, barely alive, but the refugees escaped. That was enough. Cities turned into skeletons, homes into graves, people into memories. I walked through streets where silence felt heavier than the destroyed buildings. Dust settled like snow on ruins. You couldn't tell where one house ended and another began. Everything was broken. Sometimes we found survivors, sometimes we didn't. One day we entered a bombed-out hospital. The smell of smoke and medicine mixed in the air. The walls were cracked, equipment scattered, and injured people lay everywhere. Nurses with trembling hands tried to help, without supplies, without sleep, without hope. War doesn't just break buildings, it breaks people from the inside. But even in that darkness, there were sparks. I met soldiers from countries I had never even heard of before. Different languages, different faces, but one common purpose: to stop the madness. We shared food, stories, laughter, yes, even laughter in war. Humor was the one medicine we always had. We fought side by side in mud, snow, forests, destroyed towns, and slowly, very slowly, the tide of war began to shift. I will never forget the day we pushed the enemy out of our city. People came out of hiding like flowers rising after a storm. Flags appeared from broken windows. Children ran through streets that were still smoking. Women cried, men hugged strangers, and for the first time in years, the air felt safe to breathe. I was standing in the middle of the crowd when someone grabbed my arm. It was the same child I had seen crying beside his mother long ago. He was older now, stronger, alive. He looked at me and said, "Thank you." That was the moment I realized something. War doesn't make heroes, survival does. People think a war ends when the shooting stops, but the truth, that's when the real battle begins. Rebuilding lives, rebuilding trust, rebuilding yourself. I still carry the memories, the screams, the smoke, the faces. Some nights I wake up hearing sirens that aren't really there. But I also carry hope, because I saw humanity shine even in the darkest places. And that is why I tell this story, so we never forget what war truly is. I survived World War II, but the world should never have to survive something like it again. And if my story does anything, I hope it reminds you why peace is the greatest victory we can ever win.